Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about the new TWS set by Soundpeats. This one is called the Air 4 Pro. And I will certainly start off by saying welcome back, Soundpeats. The Air 4 Pro should have been really the first one that featured Snapdragon sound and aptX lossless. I thought the Air 4 kind of okay at best. It felt like it wasn't quite finished, not quite fully baked, and I just knew that they were going to do either a follow-on on an Air 4 Pro or some other set that was going to really polish off all those features they started on Air 4, and certainly Air 4 Pro hits the mark on that. It's actually a very, very nice set, and we'll go through it kind of quickly because there's almost nothing really wrong with it. It's a great sounding set. In this style, I think it is now my favorite version of this style, and we'll talk about the graphs later and why that is. But here's what the shells look like up close. So this is sort of the hang-down, in-ear style. Very nice, kind of a very solid version of what Soundpeats has done before, just with different inside. So this one does feature the 13mm dynamic driver. It does do aptX lossless, and so let's kind of run through what we have here. So yes, this one will do aptX lossless, like I was just saying, but you really need to check the range of aptX compatibility with your phone. Most phones are not going to do aptX lossless. Most of them will do aptX if you're on Android. They will do AAC, and we'll talk about the codecs that it supports. But to actually take advantage of full Snapdragon sound with lossless, you need a phone that actually can do aptX lossless. And there aren't that many of them, and you really need to go to Qualcomm's website to figure out which phones are compatible with it. So spec-wise, let's kind of run through the list and the things that I pointed out that are sort of new or unique or good. So Bluetooth BT 5.3 is sort of the new standard that Soundpeats has been using. Codec support, this one does SBC as well as AAC. aptX Classic is what they're calling it, and I'm not sure. There's so many different variations on aptX. I was kind of surprised to see aptX Classic, and I'll have to go back and look at what Qualcomm declares as Classic, if that includes adaptive or HD, or what family is actually included in Classic, or that's just Soundpeats shorthand for saying it supports everything prior, and it also includes aptX lossless, which is right there. So another new thing on Air 4 Pro, which didn't really work as well on Air 4, was the adaptive ANC. So Air 4 was the first one that had adaptive ANC, and that is adjusting the level of noise cancellation based on the environmental sound. And on Air 4, which was like a half in-ear set, and it didn't really have a whole lot of passive blocking, that one tended to not work out all that well for ANC. And then when you listen to Air 4 Pro, and it's obvious how well it works on Air 4 Pro compared to Air 4. This is full in-ear, so you get the passive blocking. But then, even if you're just sitting on the couch and turn on your TV and turn on ANC, you sort of immediately hear the sound drop just the way ANC should. You can turn on transparency in your TV. You'll essentially be processed and piped into your ear at a lower volume. It's actually done very, very well, and it's surprisingly well considering how it worked on Air 4. There's a big gap between Air 4 and Air 4 Pro on the ANC, and this is definitely finally the version where adaptive ANC sort of comes to fruition and sounds as it should and as you're expecting it to sound. So timeline, so earbuds do about 6.5 hours on SBC. So that means on aptX, I think they tend to go down by hours, so maybe it's 5.5, probably less than 6 hours on the other aptX codecs. And driver size 13 millimeters. And then some of the new Bluetooth features, so multiple connections. You can connect this one to multiple devices. Whichever one is playing is the one or whichever one you hit play on is the one you hear. The other one is still connected, but not passing through any sound. So in-ear detection is another one that is new on Air 4 Pro. So if this is in your ear and playing music and you pull it out, like you want to hear someone says, "Hey, how's it going?" You take it out of your ear like you would normally do to hear what they said. This one will actually pause your music automatically. That's what they're calling in-ear detection. And one earbud use, you can do that on this one as well. So pretty nice. Again, this one is the full featured version of Snapdragon sound, and And Soundpeats tends to roll out features on different sets, and it sort of, you get this incremental build of the full feature set. And this one is, I think, about as close as we're going to get on Snapdragon Sound as far as having all of the features. So as I was just talking about, did it fix most of my complaints on Air 4? Absolutely. This one fixed almost near everything on Air 4. So Air 4 was the first adaptive ANC, like I was talking about. Didn't work well and affected the tuning. If you turned on ANC and turned off ANC, the tuning changed quite a bit. Pro is much better on ANC and adds transparency and is much less noticeable on the tuning. And the tuning of Air 4 Pro sounds complete and very likable. Don't really need to fix it in EQ, which is also different and sort of why I leaned into this set more than some of the past hang-down versions. And this in-ear design will always be my preference over the half in-ear like Air 4 Pro was. So sound, this one is strangely not all that far from Harman levels, and it's balanced, and it's still DSP tweaked. This one, it's still going to have Soundpeats Classic preset running, so it's still going to have some DSP tweaking to the tuning, but very much the U-shape, and I would call it a basic clarity style sound. If you look at it compared to previous sets, it is more conservative, safe, and closer to a typical IEM at the same price point. And it's also another fun example if you are curious to hear a 13mm dynamic driver that can do mid-bass in an impactful way. It's actually a very good example of that. So this is probably the more important bit of it. Now we're going to walk through some of the previous sets that I've reviewed, and you can kind of see right off the bat. So Air 4 Pro is in the red, and if you actually look, it actually feels a little more balanced. So if you look at the blue, which is Sound Engine 4, which actually was a nice set too as well, but the bass is elevated a bit more than the treble, and you get this sort of bassy tilt to it. And if you go back and look at the reviews, you sort of see the same thing. You're like, Sound Engine 4, quite a bit bassy set, but then did a very, very relaxed treble. So I would say that Engine 4 was actually a very nice set and actually works out quite well, but I EQ'd it and pushed this up a little bit, probably exactly where Air 4 Pro was. And then I'm not sure I actually brought the Engine 4's bass down to where Air 4 Pro is, but again, as far as where Harman Target is and this general likability that you get by conforming to something close to Harman Target, Air 4 Pro quite close and brought down quite a bit from most of the prior Soundpiece sets. It's still going to sound bassy. This is still, it's not quite 8 dB maybe. It's still up there, but not nearly as much, and not nearly as much banging in your ear as you get on some of the prior sets. Like Life is a good example. So again, I talk about Air 4 Pro being this sort of balanced version of, if you look at where the bass shelf is and look about where the treble is, they're sort of in sync, in balance with each other. And then you look at a set like Life, which just had a monster bass curve, a very, very fun V-shape, absolutely blast of a set. But again, you can kind of see where people talk about this V-shape. It boosted the bass quite a bit above even the Harman Target. It's above most sets. I think that Soundpeats did as well. And they brought up the treble to match the bass, and you end up with this, boosted bass, boosted treble, absolutely fun, banging 13mm dynamic driver. So when I say that Air 4 Pro is a little more conservative and a little more safe, that's exactly what I'm talking about. These levels, which are absolutely fun and a blast on Life, have been brought down to more of a mainstream, something that if you gave this set to someone who never heard TWS or anything like that, Air 4 Pro, there would be no issues with someone saying, well, this is bright or too bassy. It's pretty much in line with Harman Target, general appealing, that kind of style sound. And if we look at it, an older set, so Mini Pro HS, again, you can kind of see this one was tilted a little bright, so it still had a nice little bass curve that's above Air 4 Pro, but then it had a lot of treble, or not a lot of treble, but enough treble. This was a slightly more treble-heavy set, and the tilt was this way. So again, I talked a lot about this balance of where Air 4 Pro is, and Opera and Mini HS Pro, they were both sort of more treble-heavy, a little bit brighter. Not quite as much fun as Life on the bass side, but not all that far from Air 4 Pro on the bass, but certainly a brighter treble, more present treble. And I think Air 4 Pro sort of hits the magic balance of giving you enough bass so it's fun, you're never lacking any bass at all, and then having a treble that's not all that far from Harman Target, which is a great level to pick if you're just looking for a general appealing, there's nothing missing, not too much, not too little, just kind of a really nice version of balanced tuning that you can find at lots of wired IMs and not as many TWS at this price point. So that's what I got on Air 4 Pro. Really nice. I'm glad that they went back and came out with the Pro and fixed pretty much everything on Air 4. So good job, Soundpeats, on this one. So that's what I got. And thank you guys again for tuning in, and I will see you next time.